They didn't stab me in the back. They clinked champagne glasses with me at Cipriani, kissed both cheeks, and handed the knife to someone younger, with perfect brows and no resume. And I smiled through it, like a Carrington does. I've spent over 20 years building House Halston into what it is now. When I started, we were barely relevant, a faded luxury name clinging to its 70s glory. Now, we're on every cover. Our fragrance line outsold Tom Ford last quarter, and I was the woman who made that happen. I'm Sloane Carrington, 48, creative director, brand architect, strategy whisperer. The woman who stayed late, flew red-eye, saved campaigns, fired men who thought I was just detail-oriented. I wasn't supposed to still be here. I was supposed to be in the boardroom by now. And when Robert Halston announced his graceful retirement in January, every signal pointed to me. The staff whispered it. The PR team asked if I wanted to prep a statement. Hell, HR asked for an updated headshot. Just in case. So when I sat down at the long walnut table in that glassed-in Midtown tower, wearing ivory silk and a smile I'd rehearsed for weeks, and they announced Delilah Vaughn as chief creative and newly appointed executive partner, I didn't blink. But I felt something in me tilt. Quietly. Deliberately. Like a blade against porcelain. Delilah Vaughn is 28, Instagram star turned brand visionary, with a 4-month internship and a 1 million follower smile. She speaks in buzzwords, makes TikToks where she unboxes handbags with background jazz, wears sheer gloves ironically. She'd been consulting with us for less than a year, whispering about Gen Z authenticity, charming our CFO at rooftop dinners, and now she was sitting where I should have been, legs crossed, notebook unopened, wearing a dress I designed 6 seasons ago and called Forgettable. When the announcement ended, she smiled across the table and mouthed, "So honored." I mouthed back, "You should be." The meeting ended with polite applause. Everyone filtered out, some casting nervous glances my way, others pretending not to notice the power shift. Robert patted my shoulder like a golden retriever and said, "We still need you, Sloane. Your vision is irreplaceable." Vision, yes. Voice, number. I went back to my office, closed the door, poured a glass of bourbon from the decanter behind the awards shelf, and sat very, very still. They thought I'd take it, that I'd sit quietly in the corner while Delilah rebranded us with Gen Z jargon and mood boards from Pinterest. They thought I'd fade. But here's the thing about fading women. We don't disappear. We restructure. The first file I pulled was from Delilah's onboarding. She hadn't signed her own NDA. An oversight, a small one. But in our business, small mistakes open very big doors. The second thing I checked, her expense reports. Just a casual click into the admin portal. Delilah didn't know half her privileges were linked through mine. 3 red flags in 2 weeks. A dinner charged to the R&D budget. A private car to the Hamptons billed as executive outreach. A $5,000 brand research trip that included her boyfriend. And the boyfriend? Luke Parrish, freelance photographer, and incidentally, also on payroll, under visual consultant. I smiled, not a real smile, the kind you see on Vogue covers right before a headline about divorce. I didn't act that day. I waited, I listened, I let Delilah step into her new role, sweep in with crystals and lavender spray, redecorate the conference room like a podcast studio. Let her feel invincible. Let her think I'd accepted my fate. Because real power doesn't shout. It watches, it collects, it waits for the right audience. And mine would be arriving very soon. Delilah had a vision board meeting on Monday. It wasn't in the calendar. She didn't book the room. She just gathered half the team in the glass-walled presentation suite, dimmed the lights, lit a citrus candle like this was a therapy session, and began saying words like vibe, emotion forward, and brand intimacy. She used my slides, the ones I had drafted in December. Same fonts, same order, same color palette. She just changed the title. The Vaughn Framework Trademark. No one said anything. Not Celeste from Brand Ops. Not Henry from Digital. Not even Theo, who had literally watched me build the deck from scratch in Eat-Lay. Delilah beamed as she clicked through. We're pivoting into presence, not just product. Gen Z doesn't want to buy a lifestyle, they want to be invited into one. Someone clapped. I looked at my assistant, Alina, through the glass. Alina raised one eyebrow. She knew. Afterward, I waited for the sheep to scatter. Then I walked into the conference room. Delilah was still gathering her energy crystals from the windowsill. That was enlightening, I said. "Oh, thanks, Sloane," she said, not looking up. "It's so great to have support from the legacy team." I smiled. "I love what you did with my work." That made her pause. "Oh? Did you contribute to the original branding doc?" "Not the doc, the entire structure." She blinked. "Well, I guess we're all building on each other now, right?" I stepped closer. Not threatening, just still. "Make sure your foundation's solid. It's hell when things collapse." Delilah smiled again. But it twitched. It always twitches when she's nervous. I didn't need to yell. I had screenshots, not just from the expense reports. Those were child's play. I had her private Slack chats. She hadn't logged out of my laptop after her collab session last week. Rookie mistake. She'd been messaging with Luke, the photographer boyfriend, during the last campaign rollout. Timestamps matched the delay in asset delivery. She was funneling final drafts to him before they went to legal. One message read, "They're so slow, LOL. Just post it from your account and tag me. I'll get it pushed." Another, "Sloane's not even on TikTok. She won't notice." Cute. I compiled everything into a single folder. Her misused budget, her plagiarized presentation, her leaked brand materials, her NDA oversight, the screenshots. I titled it, Delilah Vaughn Pre-Crisis Package. Then I added one final file, a voice recording, from my phone, last Friday. Delilah at happy hour, whispering to her friend in the bathroom stall, "Honestly, Sloane's so over. She just doesn't know it yet." She laughed after that. So did I. The next morning, I invited 3 people to coffee in my office. Jeremy Green, head of legal. Quiet, vicious, wears navy suits like armor. Louisa Chen, PR director. Never misses a story before it breaks. Frances Halston, Robert's wife. Technically external, but she controls the board's mood like a barometer. I served espresso, no notes, no sugar, and I let the folder play itself. They didn't say much. Louisa took notes. Jeremy just nodded twice. Frances, she leaned back in her chair and whispered. She was never ready. And just like that, my knife was sharpened. But I didn't go for blood. Not yet. Delilah still had to feel safe. So that afternoon, I sent her a gift. A single white orchid. No card, just one word typed on the delivery slip. Soon. She posted it on Instagram. Grateful, Sams blessed, mon creative energy. She had no idea. There's something exquisitely cruel about letting someone walk into their own downfall wearing new shoes and a designer blazer. Delilah arrived 20 minutes early on the morning of the quarterly stakeholder review. She wore white. Bold choice. I always wore black to these. Power over purity. Thank you very much. "Wish me luck," she said, grinning as she breezed past my desk. I wished her clarity. She'd need it. The presentation was held in the rooftop boardroom, Manhattan skyline behind us, filtered water on the table, screens set to standby. I took my seat 2 chairs down from Frances Halston. Delilah sat at the head, Robert's old chair. She had a clicker, a printed agenda, an influencer's poise. The room was full. 10 board members, 4 senior executives, 2 external partners, and 1 journalist from Business Style Weekly, observing for the upcoming legacy profile. Delilah began. "Thank you all for trusting me with this incredible legacy," she said, pressing her palms together like a TED Talk wannabe. "Today's presentation isn't just about numbers, it's about narrative." I almost applauded. That was my line. Slide 1, our reach. She highlighted growth metrics, used campaign stats, my campaign. Slide 2, our voice. Photos of models, colors I picked, captions I wrote. Slide 3, next steps. And that's when the screen glitched. Not a tech failure, just a timed intervention. Instead of her slide, a PDF loaded titled Halston Confidential, Internal Use. Only Delilah froze. On the screen, a screenshot of her Slack messages. "Sloane's not even on TikTok. She won't notice." Gasps. Click. Next slide. Honestly, Sloane's so over. She just doesn't know it yet. Click. Next slide. A photo of Luke, shirtless, tagged in a post using pre-release campaign materials. Click. Expense report. Click. Voice memo. Click. NDA oversight. Click, click, click. She reached for the clicker. Too late. Jeremy Green had already stepped forward. Board members, please excuse the interruption. This was brought to legal's attention yesterday. We felt it was best to address it transparently. Today. Delilah stood there, pale, like someone who just realized the elevator cable had been cut. She stammered. This is out of context. Francis leaned in. Which part? The money? Or the arrogance? Delilah looked at me. Finally. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. And that was her fatal error. Not the theft, not the leaks, but the silence. After the meeting, Louisa called me into her office. She poured 2 glasses of white wine, never offered wine before noon, not even after a win. Francis asked if you'd consider taking the role after all, she said. I didn't blink. She asked, Louisa smiled. Begged, if we're being accurate. I took the wine. Tell her I'm considering other offers. That night, Delilah cleared out her desk. She didn't speak to anyone, just gathered her crystals and her lavender mist and her notebooks full of stolen dreams. On her way out, she passed my office. I opened the door before she knocked. She looked tired. You could have talked to me, she said. I tilted my head. So you could lie again? No, she whispered, so I could say I was scared. I paused, then said gently, You should have been. The day after Delilah left, the office felt lighter. Even the walls seemed to exhale. The interns whispered louder. The espresso machine made it through the morning without jamming. And in the elevator, people made eye contact again. I received 24 flowers, all anonymous, all white orchids. Someone in PR had a sense of humor. I kept one on my desk, not because I needed the reminder, but because I enjoyed the symmetry. Frances Halston called that afternoon. She didn't waste time. We want you to take the seat, she said, effective immediately. Not would you like to. Not let's discuss terms. Just we want you. I let her speak. She talked about legacy, trust, recovery, media damage control, investor reassurance. I listened. When she paused, I said, I want Luke's contract terminated. He's freelance. And blacklisted. A pause, then, done. I also want full creative autonomy. Of course. And the title adjusted to what? Creative chairwoman. Not director, not partner, chairwoman. She hesitated. That title doesn't currently exist. I smiled. It does now. Alina brought me a latte after the call. Do I still have a job? She teased. You're promoted, I said. To what? Keep showing up and we'll invent a title. She grinned. God, you're terrifying when you win. I'm always terrifying, I said. People just forget when I'm polite. The next week was quiet. I didn't gloat. I didn't issue statements. Delilah tried to stir up sympathy online. Cryptic posts, photos of her staring out rain-covered windows, captions like, some people take what they didn't earn, and they'll regret pushing me out. She had fans, of course, people who reposted her TikToks and said things like, we stand with women, as if the woman she tried to erase hadn't bled for this brand for 20 years. I let them talk. Let them tweet. Because while they cried in comments, I met with buyers, restructured our campaign slate, and tripled next quarter's forecast. Let the girls post. I'm too busy owning the company they hashtagged. Then came the invitation. From Robert Halston himself. A white envelope, hand-delivered to my home. Heavy paper, ink that shimmered, old money subtlety. Dear Sloane, as I enter retirement, I'd like to host one final Halston dinner. Private, intimate, 6 guests. You, of course, are at the top of my list. Saturday at 8. Wear something that reminds them who you are. RH, the audacity of it. The condescension. He thought I'd show up in pearls and gratitude. Toast him for his legacy. Hug Delilah if she appeared. Instead, I RSVP'd with one word. Attending. And I began writing my speech. The Halston townhouse on East 73rd is the kind of place with doormen who don't smile and crystal light fixtures that cost more than most people's annual salary. I arrived at 7:58 in black. Not just any black. Original season Halston back when it meant something. Cut on the bias, silk that draped like a whisper, neckline sharp enough to draw blood. The butler opened the door. He blinked when he saw me. "Ms. Carrington?" I nodded. "Still here." Robert greeted me in the foyer with a faux paternal smile and a half-hearted air kiss. He looked smaller somehow, like retirement had started hollowing him out before he'd even left. "Sloane," he said, "you look victorious." "I am," I replied. He chuckled like that was charming. Inside, 5 other guests mingled with champagne. A hedge fund heir, a PR queen, some tech startup boy genius in designer sneakers, Francis, of course, and, surprise, Delilah, in green sequins. Too much perfume. Smile like glass. "Didn't expect to see you here," I said, tone perfectly neutral. "I was invited," she said, lifting her glass. I gestured to mine. So was I. Dinner was served in the solarium. Handwritten place cards, roasted quail, endless wine, laughter choreographed like a ballet, and then dessert and the toast. Robert stood, fork against crystal. "I just want to say," he began, "this table is what I always envisioned. Visionaries, elegance, talent. What we've built over the last 3 decades has been nothing short of remarkable." Everyone murmured approval. Delilah dabbed the corner of her mouth, as if she were moved. Robert lifted his glass. "And of course to Sloane, for helping us close this chapter so powerfully." I stood, slowly, glass in hand. "Thank you, Robert." Silence. "But before we clink glasses, I'd like to add something." Francis raised an eyebrow. I smiled. "I've learned something about power," I said. "It's not who you sit beside, it's who you silence." Robert's brow furrowed. I kept going. "Power is letting someone else think they've won, while you redraw the map underneath them." I turned to Delilah. "Power is watching a girl rewrite your work and call it her own. Smile as she does it, post selfies with your success, sleep with your ideas." Delilah's fork clinked against her plate. I faced the table. "And power," I said softly, "is knowing the only real thing you need is time." I raised my glass. "To those of us who've waited long enough." The silence cracked. Frances sipped her wine. Robert didn't meet my eyes. Delilah was already checking her phone. And when the toast ended, so did the illusion. By Monday morning, I was chairwoman. Delilah's media contract was terminated, quietly but permanently. Robert's name was removed from the board's daily communications. Frances sent me flowers. And Business Style Weekly, they ran their cover anyway. But they changed the headline. It used to say, "The Future of Halston, Delilah Vaughn's Vision." Now it said, "Sloane Carrington, the woman who outlasted them all." I didn't burn the empire. I simply moved into the throne room and redecorated, with silence and steel.